The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding Him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. The Hebrew and Bible Academy. You're invited.
Shalom, shalom. Come on in.
The East is where we're from.
Blessings, brothers and sisters. Come on in.
The 12 tribes of Israel. In 721 BC.
Yes, 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 yes.
The Assyrian king, he took us down, we fell. With a great escape, we went through the Euphrates. The Lord held the water still. To a land where no mankind dwelt, we went. The 12 tribes of Israel. That's who we be, we be. Manasseh, the Cubans, Ephraim from Puerto Rico, Naphtali from the Isles of Hawaii. The Lord is calling back Israel. Zebulun from Panama, Gad, the North American.
Come on in.
Simeon, the Dominicans. AHAYAH's gathering Israel. The Arabs and Africans told
At
us.
gunpoint.
At gunpoint. Together our wives and children and sold.
That's right, brothers and sisters. I'm Elder Rick Harshiar of the Gathering of Christ Church, here live before the Sabbath come in with our weekly Patreon update. Weekly Patreon update. I hope you all are doing fine. Going into the Sabbath. And yes, do we have something to talk about today? I have the videos all queued. Elder Ramar sent me something that was quite interesting. Quite interesting from a doctor, Dr. McCullough, confirming some of our concerns while we were in the midst of the cold. Right? It's as if the powers that be had one shot to get this right, knowing that the majority of people in the earth going forward would be more cautious concerning, I would say, how can I put this? Government-sponsored initiatives. Let me put it that way. So they had one opportunity to strike in a time of confusion. And you know what? They were able to execute everything and more. Okay. Concerning bringing something forth the world have never seen before, having the whole population confused at once with stopping the earth, and with that, people making decisions out of haste or fear. Right? So they had to have all those components work at once so that this thing could work. And it worked. What Ramar sent me in particular was interesting, because it's only about 2 or 3 minutes. I can't play it here, but I'll play it on Patreon, with a doctor giving us some insight to the consequences no one told us would happen. Some of the consequences, right? I titled this today, going into our Patreon, I titled this, Families Harmed Through the Devil's Science, right? And why did I title this? Some of the things that I was concerned about, that I said were possibilities, have become actualities confirmed by a lot of the doctors. Whether you are for or against the initiatives that were pushed, both on either side and journals are confirming. What I want to talk about, what I stated in particular, is that suppose, I'm trying to make sure I'm not violating here when it comes to these rules on this platform here. Suppose that there's a behavior component, an unintended side effect, if you will, that could modify behavior. What I stated in 2020, well before the so-called election that happened, transitioning Trump to Bush. Don't forget, the fear started around the time at the end of the Trump administration. And I stated that according to prophecy in 3rd Baruch, it breaks down the fact that the people would be under a stupor or confused. And eventually, subsequent to that, people will begin to betray one another and go against each other. But what I didn't understand when the Most High gave us those scriptures years ago was how they were able to get in, to come in and affect behaviors. But now I know. I told people, I said, listen, don't be surprised if there's what? Unexplained aggression, high criminality, and infighting amongst people who would normally think before acting. Suppose when you're triggered, something on the outside of you control that rage or anger before you get an opportunity to what? To rationalize, only to come to a cool head. Suppose when you're triggered, there's something out there that can push you over the edge. What I want to say, and I'm going to get straight to it, if there's families, husband, wives, boyfriend, girlfriend, and either or, one decided not to do it, but the other decided to do it, well, guess what, folks? There's an ill effect on that person who decided to stand pat, according to what I'm going to show. Okay? The exchange of saliva as well as blood, or exchange when it comes to intercourse and all those things, is what some of these scientists are talking about. The ill effect on those who decided not to, but yet a loved one close to them decided to the contrary. I want to show something real quick. And I told people, be careful. I told them. I said, be careful. That if it's not of God, if God doesn't say, If God isn't behind it, if it's not in Scripture, the answer is let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. And those who are confused, without faith, operating through fear, usually there's a consequence for that. Now, I pray that brothers and sisters can overcome some of the ill effects, but I played this particular video in particular, brothers and sisters, real quick. I played this video. Let me put it here. I played this video from the Kingsmen during the confusing portion of what you would call when the cold came, put it that way. And when people were, indecisive on what to do, not realizing whether or not the world would ever open again, right? Some people thought that we were going to stay on lockdown and all these things forever, and it was 24-hour day media blitz getting inundated with what was going on. Fair. And I played this clip from the Kingsmen. Well, in the Kingsmen, and this came out years ago, folks. Well over about 4 or 5 years ago, this came out probably. Where Samuel Jackson had a device, right? And with this device, through the air, it could control the behaviors of people. And eventually would have those who would normally love and care for each other, they would begin to attack and destroy one another for no apparent reason. And I said, brothers and sisters, don't be surprised if the news begin to report unexplained behavior, criminality, destruction and killing that would normally, outside of what we're used to. It's confusing. We're in a confusing world as it is. But there's a lot of unexplained criminality going on, right? Mental illnesses. People acting out of character. Well, when I played this, and I'm going to play a little bit of it, just a little bit, fair use. Samuel Jackson hits a device, right? He switches a device. And this happens in the church. Fair use, educational use, for educational purposes only. I am not getting paid on this. This channel isn't monetized anyway. For educational and religious purposes only.
This is the wrath of God. Our filthy government condones sodomy, divorce, abortion. And yet some still doubt this is the work of the Antichrist. You do not have to be a Jew, a nigger, a whore, or a
fair use
science-loving evolution spouter.
Charming sermon. Can you see Valentine anywhere?
So, my friend, although he is a just God, he is justly
You sure we're out of range?
We're over 1,000 feet away. What's wrong?
What if the calculations are wrong?
You just have to trust me.
Jew, nigger, fag lover,
fair use.
and the devil is burning them for all eternity.
Excuse me.
Where are you going? Hey, what's your problem?
Says, what's your problem?
Where are you going? Hey, what's your problem?
I'm a Catholic whore, currently enjoying
fair use
out of wedlock with my black Jewish boyfriend who works in a military abortion clinic. I'm a Catholic whore, currently enjoying Congress out of wedlock with my black Jewish boyfriend who works in a military abortion clinic. So hail Satan and have a lovely afternoon, madam.
He said, hail Satan.
Oh, shit. He's leaving. I'm starting the test now. Hope enough of these freaks have our SIM cards.
What happens when Samuel Jackson hits the button? What happens when he hit the button? Look what happens when he hits the button. Out of nowhere, and that's all I'm going to play on this right now. Out of nowhere, brothers and sisters, the people within the church, peaceful, church-going, God-fearing people, begin to utterly decimate, destroy, and kill one another in the movie based on an outside technology. Now, what will we be going into on Patreon today? What will we be going into, right? What we're going to be talking about on Patreon, right? And this is all from the outright, the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Society. We're going to be talking about messenger RNA, right? We're going to also have a doctor by the Dr. McCullough who has a report on what of those who decided not to do anything. What impact does any of our family members' decision have on us who decided not to do it? Is there an ill effect or whatever the case might be? Well, we're going to have a doctor, a clip from the doctor who can give me that insight, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to also go into, outside of that, there's a video that I got loaded called Human DNA Controlled with Electricity. There's a video out on that, and I have that queued up, right? And I'm going to also go into some white papers, PubMed Central, the role of RNA modifications in brain and behavior. And we're going to talk about that today. And also, what's more concerning, brothers and sisters, what's more concerning than all of this is what happens to the children, the possibility of the children who were born out of new science. What are they? Are they the same genetics as their father's bloodline, I'm going to say. See, I'm trying to be very careful with my words, understanding how this stuff works here. Are they of the same genetics of their forefathers, or could they have become something else? Or could they have become something else? Now, it's deep that it goes into the mRNA messenger. A messenger is a go-between. It's outside of the norm when it comes to messenger, and I'm going to go into some of the white papers on this in a moment, right? I'm trying to talk around things, but I hope you all understand what I'm talking about. And in the Bible, it speaks of a messenger. Exodus 33 and 2 reads what? Exodus 33 and 2 in our regular King James Bible, our God, the God of Israel, said, "And I will send an angel before thee." Now we know this was the Spirit from on high, Christ himself guiding us out of Egypt, guiding us through the wilderness. A messenger from God. Well, those who turned Adam and Eve stated, "Ye shall be like gods, understanding both good and evil." So there were fallen ones in the earth, separating Adam and Eve, the image of God, from God. The fallen angels are also messengers. How do you know that? Look right here. Angel. I will send an angel before thee. I will send a what? Messenger. A messenger. So when we go into a few things out there, when they talk messenger, who is behind the message getting sent in those who have participated in their science? Who are they receiving messages from? And has the world gone mad because the messenger is actually communicating with those who participated? Not our messenger. We're talking about the principality and powers of the air. We're talking about the prince of darkness. Is he communicating with people? Causing chaos, confusion? Has he interrupted the signal between God and God's people like he tried to get in between through Adam and Eve? And because of that, has the world gone completely mad, especially those who've participated in the experiment? Brothers and sisters, if you were a person who decided to stand back to see how this would unfold, but still have a family member you're sleeping with or been with or whatever the case is, you definitely want to hear this broadcast on Patreon. The children that are produced after this, having the stuff within the mother or the father. Could this be as the days of Noah when they began to produce monstrous monsters like it was prophesied would happen from the book of Esdras? That in the last days, women shall bring forth monstrous monsters, another genome? Folks, I believe they had one time to get this right. And all of the proverbial stars aligned to know if they was going to succeed in this. They had one shot. And you know what? They took it. But the problem for us is, for those in the earth who took the bait, not having faith. Okay? This thing is way deeper than just a could there be a behavior modification portion into that, which leads us into 2 Timothy's, the 3rd chapter. And let me talk about this real quick. Second Timothy's. See, I believe not the powers of this world. I believe not. And I have the religious, quote unquote, religious right not to believe the mouthpiece of Satan through media persuasion. I have the right not to believe it. I would rather take my chance with my God and my health. When it's time for me to go, my God is going to call me home. I'm not going to be afraid and do what? Be scared into something that could do what? Affect me spiritually and separate me from my God. No. I'd rather go out intact with the Bible, with the body the Most High have given me, under full health and depending on who? The God of Israel and his son Christ. Because you don't know what's going on with all this science and all this other stuff. I know what's going on with our God, that men live or sometimes hundreds of years without any of this modern day technology. Okay? And that leads us to where we are. 2 Peter 3:1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lover of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness. Oh yeah, we believe in Jesus. But denying the power thereof, from such turn away. Folks, suppose science can tap into all these negative, evil traits that came with the fall of man and do what? Use them when people are triggered. Suppose there's something in you now, right? That instead of you hearing your conscience through God when it comes to what? Being triggered, just reacting, just spontaneously off of how you feel, being moved strictly on emotion, which leads to destruction. Suppose that component that usually have you think before acting no longer exists. Or when you try to resolve it, your thoughts are cloudy. And then the behavior modifications trigger you to act out what? Your revenge or whatever, or whichever insatiable spirit you're in. Suppose there's something in you that can trigger it, contrary to what you would normally do with a cool head. Folks, that and more is what we'll be discussing on Patreon today. It's going to blow you away. Everything I said and was talking about when I said stand pat, don't deal with fear, stand pat. That the psychological modifications, I told you, brothers and sisters, that we're going to hear about unexplained criminality, people acting out of the spirit. And now we're looking at it. In Alabama, some crazy old drunk white boys out of nowhere, knowing cameras are everywhere, started beating on people, knowing they was going to get a beat down. And then people swimming in the water and all these other things. And I'm looking at this. Normally, under certain circumstances, our people know to stand back a little bit. Not that, guess what? I'm all for self-defense. But what if something in you, when you're triggered, right? Even if you are right in being triggered, you're reacting. How many real-time experiments they're doing on us with the cameras rolling to see if what their science has produced works. Huh? Suppose if there's a conflict or an already argument out there and they can do something to escalate that argument. Escalate that argument between a husband and wife, between family and all that. Suppose something can come in and do what? Push you over the edge. That's right, because of the stuff. The choice people made during the time of fear. You don't want to miss this Patreon today, folks. What I'm going to talk about, what the scientists are saying, and the children that's going to come out of this, the breast milk and all that'll be produced from the women and all that. We're going to talk about that on Patreon. Another thing is tomorrow, yes, through the Spirit of the Almighty, I will be live from the Philadelphia location, right? Diving into our discussion leading to Sunday's what? the battle in the earth between man and woman. How do we come on one accord? Right? I'm going to have that Sunday, right? We're going to have guest speakers, roundtable discussion. And what we're going to talk about is what? Not blaming one another, but more so as men who believe in the Almighty, who trust in the Word of God and follow the commandments, what we must do about those, understanding that there's people out there with our image giving us a bad name. Using the bad as proxy. Using the bad as the reason they're going to come after all of us. What do we do to separate ourselves? The same thing with the women. Same thing with the women. Understanding, well, okay, how are some of these women out there who aren't doing right by God giving you a bad name? And how do you separate yourself from the blowback that comes with these women? And we're going to talk about that because we know it's not all. It's not about blame. It's coming to a consensus, understanding that God himself has drawn a line in the sand. He's drawn a line in the sand. Either we're going to get destroyed in the wake of the confusion or the gray area, or step back and let judgment unfold. All right? So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to have cue cards, all that stuff. It's going to be kind of fun, a fun dialogue in the academy. The first time we've ever done it like this, multiple cameras, lawyer going to be reading the cue cards and all that, and his interaction is going to be pretty nice as we go into this, and to come to a mutual consensus. So we're going to deal with that this Sunday. And above all, God will speak through the Bible. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to go into a lesson, right? How Satan tricked humanity. And that's going to be the topic for tomorrow, how Satan tricked humanity. And what I'm going to talk about in particular, and this is why we have to get this thing right, because according to the Bible, brothers and sisters, this thing is well deeper than just nation against nation. The Bible says the enemy shall be they of your own household. And it tells us in the book of Isaiah, the 3rd chapter, and other chapters, I'm going to go into this, that now that men are beginning to react, and I'm talking about men in particular, now that men have began to react to the negatives that came with femininity. Okay, feminism, excuse me, not femininity. Femininity is good, but feminism was never about equality. Feminism was about taking and eventually destroying men. That was the whole initiative behind it. Taking and initially destroying men. And there was a prophecy, there's a prophecy at the very end of it that now men are beginning to respond to it. Right? It's going to kick up to the next level. Where in the Bible, it tells you that, I'm going to tell you, I'm talking about the women who's off, who don't want to come to God. There's going to be a high rate of murders in the earth where women who aren't right with God are going to be attacking, poisoning, and destroying men. It's in the Bible. And I'm going to tell you, and it's really about self-preservation. It's going to come down to self-preservation. Now that men understand how the game has worked against them for a long time, and it's not talking about just black men, men in general. Men are going to start switching things off. They're not going to, and Satan made it this way. Satan made it where it wouldn't be a comely option to marry, right? Men are going to hold back their seed so that they can't get trapped into situations. Men are just going to be utilizing, operating as the world, with the world, and women are going to become more irate and upset as this comes, as this goes. And when this happens, women for self-preservation initially are going to go to war. And they don't war like men. They don't war through frontal wars. It's going to be poisons and all types of stuff. It's going to be doing something to a man, then calling saying that he abused me, and that's why you got to come collect the body. All of that and more. And then after that, all over the earth, folks, then after that, the war begins. And when the war begins, after there's been a total cataclysm between man and woman, there'll be few men in the earth. There will be few men in the earth. And at that time, Isaiah 4 kicks in, where women are going to be searching for men. The good women who are left going to be searching for men to protect them through the war. Folks, it's going to be like the book of Eli out here. And only Christ can save us through this. But now we're in the point of the stuff is in people, the behavior modifications. People aren't going to be as patient with each other like they used to. And the cataclysm between genders, male and female, the image of God, Adam and Eve, is going to blows. And the spirit of Lilith will come in with the poison to say, well, listen, if he can't be under my control, that's right. There's no good for him in the earth. If he can't serve me and do what I need, then what good is he? He's better off not existing. Folks, that's where it's going. It's not about men. And guess what? It's equal blame on either side. But at the end, in the end, it tells us a man shall be like precious gold or pure gold. Well, it's not talking about him being on some level shining, standing on a horse like pure gold. Gold is rare compared to any other metals. That's what makes gold more expensive. Out of all of the metals, gold is rare. What that means, men will be rare. The men in the earth that are left will be preserved as the remnant of God. And I'll tell you what, that means the majority of men are dead. If y'all don't see this is the programming that's going on in media right now, you're missing it. If y'all don't see that they putting women in all these roles and you're wondering, well, why are they doing this? Because they don't foresee men in number within the earth, in the earth. And we're talking about the near future. They don't see an earth where there's men operating it. Okay? That's what's going on. And the stuff that they put out there a few years ago, the Jim Jones juice or whatever you want to call it, hey, it's a serious component in all of this. So we're going to talk about this tomorrow. Yeah. There's nothing we can do. It's going to happen. I'm not here. There's no matter, it doesn't matter how many scriptures I know and guess what? I can't stop this from happening. God said it's going to happen. So I can't say bad man, bad woman. No, let's get this together before it's too late. It's too late. We're bringing forth these conversations and teaching these scriptures for one reason, well, many reasons, but one reason in particular for this particular topic. So that the man and woman who wants to be on the right side of judgment make a choice to do what's right by God before the judgment. Make a choice. But yeah, brothers, and I'm telling you, sisters, you have sons out there. You have brothers out there. I need you sisters to really think about this. You have sons and you have brothers out there. And when men begin to react and not participate in what feminism forced men into, some women are going to have to kick it up to the next level. Okay, if I can't use my body, if I can't use the courts, if I can't use this, then there's no need for them. Let's get rid of them. And it's going to be women operating in groups to destroy men. And the men who aren't under the Almighty, who don't have the understanding to understand what's going on here, and not walking according to God, will be judged through those circumstances. Walking naive, without the word of God, not standing as a man of God, choosing what's right, you're going to fall into some of these traps. You got brothers, cousins, nephews. Understand that the reason why Satan wanted to destroy man, because man is the image of God. And woman came from man. Woman came from man to be a helpmeet so that we could work together to defeat the enemy. Satan hates the image of man because he's beholding the image that hurled him from his heavenly reign, from his heavenly position. Every time he sees a man, he's upset because he's actually witnessing the image that hurled him to earth. Right? So that's why he did an end around to give the fruit to the woman, to empower the woman to help him do what? Defeat the man from the bottom up. Right? Why? Because he's no longer in heaven. The principalities and powers of the air operates on our frequency. He couldn't attack us from the heavenly realm. He no longer have access there. So he had to attack us from the bottom up and use what we love, what we cherish, what we would die for. See? So all in all, it's time for us to understand the times we're living in. And guess what? Understand that science is a great tool in Satan's arsenal against man. So with that, I can't wait until my teaching tomorrow. We're going to talk about that. We're going to go into it. And it's going to be a blessing. And through that, we're going to dive right into the academy this coming Sunday. We have multiple cameras. We're going to have a studio audience for the first time, multiple cameras, and we're going to have cue cards. It's really going to be a fun, interactive day Sunday. We're going to have a guest, Austin Holloman. I already spoke to him from the Passport Bros. And he's going to come in because he said that there's a lot of lies they put out there on him, and he want to straighten out. And he's going to talk about the reason why he's traveling the earth. Okay, why is he going into these other places, and what's going on with the traditions in other places that has been lost from the Western world, and what can we do? Hold on, from his perspective, what can we do? What can we do? Hold on. What can we do? Not what can we, but from his perspective, why is it that we have to go all over the earth if there's good women here? Right? If there's good women in America or in the Western world, why are these women being overlooked? And I want to hear his assessment on this. Maybe he believes the good women are married already. I don't know. But it's good to hear an outside perspective. And for years, with the Gathering of Christ Church, we've always had special guests on, whether we agreed with them or not. I had a Wiccan on one time. A straight Satanist came on one of our broadcasts to tell us that paganism, that Christianity have stolen their ceremony and practices. So just because I bring someone on doesn't mean that it's about an agreement. It's about different perspectives, objectivity, conversations that leads to a resolve with the scriptures giving the answers at the very end. And that's what it's about. And I'm going to say this. I'm bringing these things out between man and woman because, brothers and sisters, it's time to prepare. It's time to prepare our souls as individuals according to the roles the Most High have placed in us from the beginning so that we can be used by him, so that we can be his vessels. Satan have already taken the majority of his vessels. The messengers are in the minds of people right now and have triggered the earth, and the people have gone mad. So it's time for us to prepare and understand our roles as men and women. Okay? Because brothers and sisters, we're not going to stop this. I'm not preaching and teaching and doing what I'm doing to stop anything. There's nothing, I can't stop prophecy. Imagine that. The prophets knew that we would go into slavery. You think if there was something that they were teaching that could have stopped slavery? Do you think that would not have happened? They would have taught, okay, they would have taught, okay, no, he said, listen, if you do this, you're going into slavery. And the prophet said it. And even though they mourned in sackcloth, they couldn't stop prophecy. So folks, neither can we. We're here as teachers to let you know that the Bible is true, and we must go through these perilous times. But all in all, a line must be drawn so that the righteous can be saved on this side, while the judgment for others who choose that judgment, while others fall to their own peril. There's nothing I or we can do to stop this from going on. When I read Isaiah 3, Isaiah 2, 3, and 4, there's nothing, it doesn't matter how much I wish it wouldn't happen. Doesn't matter how much I hope that this thing would be way down the line past my lifetime. I can't hope it away. It's prophecy. We just have to be on the right side of judgment. Okay? It's not about who's right, who's wrong, man against woman, gender. It ain't nothing about none of that. It's about avoiding the judgment of God that's coming. And for those who understand he's true, will stand under his hedge and prepare while there's still time. Okay? All right? So let's go to Patreon and let's talk about this. And what are we going to talk about? That's right. You see it. You see it. It's right in front of you. Families harmed through the devil's science. Have they turned the world who complied into monsters? Hold tight. I'll see you on Patreon. May the Most High be with you. Stay prayed up. And yes, you will see me live tomorrow on the Sabbath. Live on the Sabbath from the Philadelphia Church. Shalom.
In the belly of these great ships we traveled in fear. By the rivers of Babylon.
HistoryTimes.org. The battle between man and woman is coming Sunday.
In Colombia, Reuben from Australia, Issachar, the Mexicans, AHAYAH's gathering Israel, Judah, the Negroes, Benjamin, the West Indians, Levi, the Haitians, AHAYAH's gathering Israel. Reuben from Australia, Issachar, the Mexicans. That's who we be, Judah, the Negroes, Benjamin, the West Indians, Levi, the Haitians, Manasseh, the Cubans, Ephraim from Puerto Rico, Naphtali from the Isles of Hawaii. The Lord is calling back Israel. Zebulon from Panama, Gad, the North American Indians, Simeon, the Dominicans. AHAYAH's gathering Israel.